Welcome to the Nickels and Dimes Finding Financial Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Kim, and I look forward each and every week to bringing you amazing content that will provide you with a financial education, will support you on your financial journey, and most importantly, help you to find financial freedom. I hope you enjoy today's episode. Welcome to the Nickels and Dimes Finding Financial Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Kim, and today I'm talking with my cousin, Mary Langi, the owner of Dynamyc Sports and an amazing mom. Mary Langi is a mom of 6 boys, ages 18, 17, 15, 10, 9, and 7. They currently live in the Bay Area in California, and her 2 oldest boys, who are skilled football players, are currently pursuing opportunities at the next level for college. Mary's a proud Polynesian woman. She and her husband, Eddie, who passed last November, worked hard to not only provide for their family, but instill a pride for their Polynesian culture within their boys. They also focused on teaching them the value of hard work, integrity, and family first. Mary, along with her business partners, launched Dynamyc Sports Management on September 28, 2023, prior to her husband's passing, and the company and family are committed to carrying on his memory through the work they do and within their daily lives. Mary, I'm so grateful to have you here with me today. Thank you for making the time. I'm excited for our conversation.
Hi, Natalie. I'm so excited. Thank you for having me today.
You're welcome. So I have an icebreaker question I like to throw out at the beginning of my episodes.
Oh, boy.
If you could be any superhero, who would you be and why?
Easy. Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, one, she's badass. And 2, I think women just have the ability to conquer the world and anything that they set their eyes to. And I just love empowering all other women.
I love it. I think that's the perfect match for you too. So we reconnected just a couple of months ago, hadn't seen each other since we were little. And one of our mutual cousins reached out to me with a post about your company and said, hey, this is our baby cousin, Mary. If you're Polynesian, you know that's how we call it. Everybody's auntie, uncle. And if your cousins are younger than you, they're your baby cousins. So, and here I am 52 and Mary's in her early 40s and she's still my baby cousin. So anyway, I was just super intrigued about what it is you're doing and why. And so I reached out and we reconnected and just had a great conversation about what you're putting together. But what I really want to start with first is just tell us a little bit more about you and your family. And we'll jump into kind of the business after that.
Yeah. Thank you. So I have 6 boys. I'm originally from Salt Lake City, Utah. I met my husband out here in the Bay Area. We fell in love, and then we had 6 boys. Early on, I just kind of knew with the 6 boys that I needed to start creating the opportunities for them and myself to kind of get them to the next level. Uh, whether that is football, whether it's through sports, and we're Polynesian, so we tend to thrive well in the sports atmosphere, and
Yeah.
that was my niche. That's how my husband and I decided we're going to invest in our kids at an early age, and we're going to pour everything we have in them. And the best way to do that is start community outreach. And then we were actively involved in youth football sports, and that's how our our love for sports and our love for kids just came to be.
I love it. I love it. So all 6 boys play sports?
All 6 boys, yes.
Yes.
Actually, my 5th one, not yet, but 5 for right now, yes.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, I mean, look, I was a single mom from the time my son was 5.5 through now. He's grown now though, 23. And I know the challenge that was with one. And, here you are stepping into that, with 6 boys and the adjustment of all of that and getting to carry forward those goals and those dreams that you and Eddie had. all that hard work that you poured into him just to give him opportunities. And so we've gotten to talk a little bit about what that looks like and what exactly the boys are looking at. I don't know how much you can say on here, so I'm not going to ask you more than you can say. You share what you're good with as we go through the conversation. But man, one of the thing about Polynesians too is we typically do have big families. My parents did not. They had two kids, just me and my brother. My mom is Polynesian. My dad is American. I call him milk toast white because he's so white. And so like if you guys see the snippet video I put out of Mary and I, if you met me on the street, you would not know that I'm half Polynesian. You can tell that Mary's Polynesian. And I blame that on my dad because he's so white. It's always been my brother and I, it's always been our joke. But big families, but also very connected through our culture. And while we can move thousands of miles away, when there's an opportunity to support or to find out what somebody's doing or encourage, we step in some way to do that. And that's really where that came from for me. When I heard about Dynamyc and what you were doing, and I'm like, I want to know more of the details of this. One of the passions I've had through what I do, financial services, is to help more of our culture to put themselves in a better financial position, especially when they're younger, to set them up for success. And I don't know the right way to say it. So I'm just going to say there are some cultures that struggle more when it comes to finances, and especially when you have big families and you're really connected to your extended families and stuff. And then sometimes opportunities come up and we don't know the information to help us make the right decisions. And so I was excited to hear about what you're creating, because more and more over the last decade, there's so many Polynesian kids going to the next level, especially in football. And it's so exciting to see and cheer for them. Auntie Bonnie, my mom, she lives with me, and we've turned my parents into football fans because they don't have any choice. We're watching football. And so she has dementia. And so she cheers for everybody. If they have the ball and they're running, she's yelling, Alu, 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 which means go in Tongan. And so she's yelling for him. We're like, Mom, that's the wrong team. And she's like, I don't care. Look at him go. She gets so excited. But her favorite thing is when, I didn't think I'd get emotional. But her favorite thing is to see the back of their jerseys and pronounce those Polynesians' names, because she came from Tonga. And when we went there when I was 10, we got the chance to go there and see where my mom grew up. And it was still very much in so many ways, especially the small islands, a third world country. And so there weren't dreams of opportunity. Their dream was, can I come to America and, have more opportunity, like a good job? There wasn't opportunities of professional sporting careers and all of these kind of things. And so like I said, over the last decade, you've seen that grow and grow and grow even more in our culture, stepping into professional sports, but especially football. And it's fun to see her face light up. And then she'll say the last name Samoan. She'll say the last name Tongan, and she yells louder for the Tongans. She's so funny. But anyway, it's exciting to see that you're creating a business. You're not only have you instilled what you have in your boys, and that has nothing to do with culture, like teaching them hard work and integrity, and that family comes first. But beyond that, really instilling that culture in them and giving them opportunities to dream big and go after everything. And they have some absolutely amazing opportunities on the table, which there's so much pride for me to see that as well. So as you've gone through this journey and you see your boys headed in that direction, they're being very successful. What are some of the things that, you and Eddie experienced when you started seeing where the opportunities were headed that led to the idea of Dynamyc sports management?
Oh my gosh, great. That's a great question. So through, I want to say junior high. Well, let's backtrack. My oldest son, he was just abnormally big. He was that kid that I had to early on in his youth football career. I had to carry a government issue ID just to prove to teams that he is the age that he's in the right age bracket age team, because there's so many parents that were like, "You're cheating, you're doing this, your kid is too big," but that's just how he was. And then as he developed throughout his years and talking to some coaches and so forth, we kind of knew from there, okay, this kid, he's going to have a crazy uh junior high school career, and if we put him on the right track, we could really get him to the next level, right?
Yeah.
So as we were started going working towards those goals, um, more and more people came out of the woodwork and approaching us, we realized that we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know as parents, we knew that we wanted our kid to to go to college. We knew that we wanted him to live out his football dreams, but we didn't know the answers to a lot of the questions that they're saying. We didn't know the lingo. We didn't know the ins and out of football. So we realized we need to know. We need to understand this. We need to understand if our son, if we're locked in on this journey with our kid and we want to get him to whatever college football or whatever that looks like, we need to know the ins and outs of this world. And we need to figure it out fast, because it starts with us. It
Yeah.
starts with me, my husband, before it even reaches my kid. And if once the football, I don't want to paint it that way, but once people start to get the whiff that we don't know what we're talking about, it's easier to for them to it's easier for us to kind of fade out and they can sit in the driver's seat with my kid. And I didn't want anybody to navigate my son. I didn't
Mm.
want anybody to if anyone's going to navigate my son, if it's other than him, it's going to be us, because we have the right
Yeah.
intentions for our kid. And I want us to fully understand how to advocate, have the knowledge, have the confidence to have those conversations with coaches, with schools. Um, and that's why it was so important for me.
Yeah. And so, that's, I love that you talked about that because I have a couple of questions off of that. But the first one is just the recognition that um you could stay in control and make sure your kid was not only getting the best opportunities that were out there, but they were really going to fit within your family values, within what was best for him, not just in this career, but beyond this. Because at some point, even going into the NFL, their NFL career ends. So what's next, right? And so making sure that you understood what everything meant. So as you're looking at offers, as you're having conversations with colleges and things like that, the questions to ask, the right way to ask them, um, all of the things I think is super important. And good grief, these kids, and it's not just Polynesian kids, any kid, you dream about going into professional sports, right? And then people start offering you that opportunity or even getting to play in college. Let's just keep it at the college level. There's that bright, shiny thing. And so when somebody's offering you something, um, it's hard not to jump at that and just get so
Absolutely.
excited and forget to look at the details. And not to say by any stretch that they're out to get you, but sometimes the things that are really important fit with your family values and things can get overlooked because for them it's still a business and a job, right? So not saying anything negative about anybody, but it is a business here and you're a family here. So for
Yeah,
you, it was really about the importance of bridging those two things, right?
absolutely.
So how did you well, let me ask my other sub question first. And then I want to go into how did you start to learn that information, put together, I could do this and include all of this. So parents felt like they were in the driver's seat and stayed in the driver's seat. But prior to that, there is in reality, and also the idea of people who have really good kids that, I mean, they're great dancers, they're great at sports, they're great at whatever it is, right? That when there's those opportunities that the parents sell out to that and push the kid in that direction. How did you and Eddie along the way make sure that even though your boys are as talented that they are, that it was their dream and not just your dream? Because I think that there are parents who just push in that direction, and that question comes up a lot. Okay, is this dad's dream or is it the kid's dream? So how did you guys make sure you stayed balanced in creating those opportunities because it's what they wanted?
Absolutely. And that is so this is what really grounded me is we do pulse checks. From the beginning of my son's journey, and I'll talk primarily with my oldest son because that's where it started. That's it's kind of like where the oldest son opens a door for everybody else to run through, right?
Yeah.
So our journey started with our oldest son, and we talked to him early on. We asked him, "What are your goals? Where do you want to be?" My husband always had a rule in our household where if you're when you get to 18, you're not living with mom and dad. You're either going to go to college or you're going to the military.
I love
Things.
it.
Those are the two things you're going to do, but you're not going to stay at home. So if you're not going to work towards a college degree, then get ready to go serve. So my kids knew early on that they have to figure out what they want to do because by 18, no one's living at home.
Yeah.
Uh, um, and my oldest son, he told us early on that he wants to play football. And of course, we don't really entertain that much because they're young. And we're like, okay,
Right.
football, you need to have a backup. It's not realistic. It's not, come on, son. The percentage, the stats is not very big, right?
Yeah.
Um, and the more and more he got into it, we saw that this is his passion. This is what he loves. And and I want to say society does a great job of telling everybody not putting all your eggs in one basket. And yes,
Hmm.
a lot it's in a lot of cases it's true. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying by any means we're putting all the eggs in one basket for Peter, but we believed him full-heartedly to where we bought into his vision. And when we bought into his vision as parents, we knew that we had to catch up and we had to do the homework and the research to get him through this journey.
Yeah. Yeah. To make sure that you knew what to talk to him about, right? And make sure,
Absolutely.
because at some point you got to know the right questions to ask your kid and make sure it's still their passion too, right?
Yeah.
Because once they get so far in the journey, they can get trapped. Like I even know this for my career. Once I got so far into my career, I did love what I did in corporate America, but I thought I'm so far now. Like, how do you shift at this point?
Yeah.
Right. And so even though they're still young in high school, in junior high, when you can see it starting to head in that direction, um, you still got to ask the questions, take the pulse, like you said, to make sure they're still doing what they really want to do.
Absolutely. And that was the biggest eye opener. We understood that prompted our next move.
Yeah.
As soon as we understood the vision, as soon as we bought in, we made ourselves a family plan, that prompted the next step. Okay, no, so how is Mary going to get into the football world and tackle what that looks like? Okay, I want to do volunteer work. So I
Mhm.
got myself into volunteer work on my son. I was his very first team mom on his youth football. Then from team mom, I was like, okay, well, how do I do the ins and out? Let me get myself on the board. Then I moved up through the board. Then I understood the dynamics of football. I put my ear to the ground and understood the language between coaches, what they look for, what they don't look for, what's going to develop a kid. Okay, I get that. So now it turned in from 1 year of on the board at youth football to 17. And then I just kept on moving and moving up and expanding my knowledge of football because I knew ultimately that's my son's goal. And I need
Mm.
to be equipped with the knowledge to get him through it.
Yeah. Here's the crazy thing that just gave me the chills when you said that, because I asked the question, how do you make sure you're not pushing your kid for your dream and that it's his dream? And what you just explained was you immersed yourself so that you could understand his dream and guide him on that journey. So many people think, you're pushing your kid in this direction. And in actuality, what you did is you sacrificed to be able to make you sure you understood fully his dream, which allowed you to be able to guide him on the journey, do the pulse checks, know the directions and the connections and the opportunities to take advantage of as he was growing, as he was developing on a play as a player, right? So there's so many people out there that, excuse me, and like I said, it is clear in, I'll say, youth sports, not just youth football, but youth sports, you can see a lot of that push from the parents. Um, but this is the first time I've ever had the conversation with a parent that said, once we knew the opportunity was there and once we knew it's what he wanted, I sold out to it and made sure that I could be the best guide for him in pursuing that dream. And so I think that's a really important point. I wanted to stop, for parents out there, whatever it is, whether it's sports or they're great at math and science, whatever it is that they're chasing, like immerse yourself in it to understand enough to know which opportunities make sense and which ones don't, so that you can help them take the right steps and going after whatever that dream is, right?
Absolutely.
So now okay, so you've immersed yourself, you're getting all this knowledge. How does dynamic sports management come about?
So through all of the knowledge that I got, the networking that I made, I it just became like this big, huge networking bubble to where I was able to look with inside and identify a lot of the gaps that were there between parents and football, between kids, between to get to the collegiate level. There was a big gap of knowledge. A lot of these parents don't understand what it takes, the negotiations that it takes, what it takes to have a college student, what it takes to get to that next level and stay at the next level. Then as Peter started getting more offers, a lot of companies would reach out to me and like, let me represent your son. We're going to do this and this and this and this and for your son. Smoky mirrors everywhere, giving me hopes and dreams, right? Give me everything that they want me to, that they think that I want to hear as a parent. And my one
Mm-hmm.
question I would ask all of these companies that came and approached me, I asked them two questions. One was, show me your business plan. And the second one is how could because a lot of the approach in the sports management world, it was very look at what I have, look at my clientele. I have 20 D1 prospects, I have 40 D1s, and they were expecting to wow me.
Yeah.
And in my head, as soon as they said I had 40 or 50 or whatever that looked like, where does my son fit? And how are you going to divide with the staff that
Mm.
you have? How are you going to divide your time with my kid? And what is your business plan? What is your plan for my kid? That prompted my next move. I swear to you, Natalie, through my journey with my son, everything has prompted my next move. I really didn't really have to think about it. It just
Mm.
prompted and it just was organically to the next move. Like right then a light bulb went off in my head. Okay, nobody if I can't trust anybody to manage my kid. So what am I gonna do about it? And
Mm.
then because eventually my other son's gonna go through this, and then my other son, and then my cousin, and then my sister's son, and I just started thinking all these people need something that is not business, but takes the player and the family and focus on them. Because if they're as good as they say they are, they're D1, the money's gonna come. Everything's
Yeah.
gonna come. But the
Yeah.
development, you have to teach that first for them to be more successful when the money comes.
Yeah. They need the foundation,
They
right?
need the
Yeah.
foundation. Yes. And that's where it started. I started doing my research. I have a full-time job, so I work 9 to 5. So I would commit myself 4 hours before I go to work and 4 hours after. Then I would work on the weekends, um, researching about this, try to tackle this, and then I found out quickly that this is a male-dominated industry, right?
Yeah,
And
I'm sure.
and I am a woman, 2 Polynesian, and a mother who doesn't know anything. But all I know is I want the best for my son, and I want to equip him with the knowledge and that he needs to be successful. Because if my son buys into everything that I provide for him throughout, then it's gonna help the coaches. It's gonna help the coaches because he's a well-rounded, coachable kid that's success. Like it all aligns with everything.
Yes.
And it's just gonna help the whole efforts, and so that's when Dynamic came to be.
And at the same time, those things came naturally to you because you'd immersed yourself in that world. So you were
Absolutely.
able to identify those things. And then on top of that, I know with the relationships and partners you have within the business, those came to be through you immersing yourself in there and making connections and building relationships, that networking of who to partner with and who to help to make sure that when you were ready to launch Dynamyc, it covered all the bases, right?
Absolutely. I went out and I try to partner up with like-minded people, and there's a lot of like-minded people out there, but my one check was if they were morally aligned with the morals that I had,
Mm-hmm.
because and that was a non-negotiable for me. Um, I had to. A lot of people have these things, and a lot of people want to do what Dynamic is, and I feel that people can, but there's but I had to make sure that the team that I had check the boxes morally. It's
Yeah.
because your character is something you can't really teach, right? I could
Yep.
teach I could create a SOP for dynamic the vision. Every any day and anybody can do it. But it's the character, the moral compass, that's where it started for me.
Yeah. And I love that. I think there needs to be more of that, honestly, in this business world as a whole, that people are looking for who is this person? What type
Yeah,
of person is there? And as I've built my business, I've gone from traditional networking of handing out cards to meet people and connect to really I want to know who you are and I want to know about your business and I want to know how I can support you because that becomes reciprocal, right? As you build
yeah,
those relationships. But I want to know that I'm building strong relationships with people I like, know, and most importantly, trust to pass a client on to for a service that I don't offer within my business. Because
that's
if that experience doesn't go well, it reflects on me, right? So creating that same thing in what you were working on, I think that personal integrity um, is absolutely a deal breaker. And I love that that was a line in the sand for you. So the other thing I love that you said is you said, show me your business plan. Like you,
yeah,
that is the thing that I think too often, even in the traditional business world, it took me a while in my career to realize that when I went for an interview at a company I wanted to work for, I had as much right to ask them a big old list of questions as they had to ask me. And that comes with maturity, having gone through a couple of jobs, made choices that I was like, ooh, this is not the culture and the environment for me. And so I had to make another change. And so I love that you were prepared to ask those questions, which identified even more of those gaps, right? Like, and then also, how are you going to make my son a priority?
absolutely.
Like, how are you going to show me that you're going to work as hard for my kid as I would? And if you couldn't find somebody to do that, you were going to find a way to do it yourself. And that's exactly what you created. So I know we've talked a ton about football because that's what your boys do. But tell me real quick, we're going to go into some of the programming
Okay.
within what you guys do as a sports management company because I think it's different. I know it's different. And so before we jump into there though, what are all the sports that you guys currently represent?
So currently, right now, we do football and basketball. We're about to sign our first female rugby player, and we're looking at wrestling and baseball. That's in the pipeline.
Awesome. So definitely a growing business, a
Absolutely.
thriving business. Like
Yes.
you guys are doing great work and expanding in so many areas and you haven't hit the 12-month mark yet. And
Yeah.
to me, that speaks to the fact that you're different. And so when people hear that you're different, they're like, I'm in, because you're giving people something they didn't know they could ask for without them having to ask, right? They never would have because they didn't know they could, but you're offering it up and making sure that those families know that that their child is a priority to you, and involving them in the process so that they can actually see it as things progress. And I think that's going to leaps him. I cannot wait to see where Dynamyc is in 12 more months from now. Because with what I know you guys have in the works within your first 12 months, I think it's just going to explode exponentially. But you have really great experts on board to help you from a coaching perspective, from, a finance perspective. You got all of those pieces and parts covered, right?
Yeah. The foundation was building the foundation was the most important thing to me. It was a very mindful process. Look at I had to look at people. I had to try to build relationships and get the experts of their field, right? I had to
Yeah.
make sure that, okay, what is it that we need? We had to identify what was needed at the foundation level of the company, and then reach out to those experts and try to get them to buy in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so we looked at a coach. We looked at the highest of the highest that we could find in basketball, co high school basketball. We got that for the basketball representative. Then we looked for football representative. And then I said, "Okay, well, somebody for like, mentoring programs." These are the things that was very important for me, is building it within our foundation and building that culture
Mm-hmm.
that is all about the player. Every step that I took within building that foundation, I had the player in mind. I had my son in mind. Okay, what does my son need? Who does he need to rely on? Who does he need to elevate his game? What does he need? And then that's how I literally built. And it wasn't just me. It was actually me and Shannon. Shannon's my partner, but we carefully crafted a foundation that had the player in mind.
Yeah. Well, and what you just said is not just the player in mind. You crafted a foundation that has the player in mind to the point that it's as if they're your own child, because you
Absolutely.
built it around your son first. But what that
Yes.
means is you built a program to make sure your son had every resource and opportunity that was available to him. And because of that, the business is founded on treating every athlete that comes through your program like they're your own kid. But not only that, their family comes along for the ride too.
Yeah. It's because it starts with the family. The family is where they're going to get their I could tell them everything. I could pour everything into them, but they go home to their family. And if the
Mm-hmm.
family's not bought in on what is going on and we're not aligned, then it's just not going to be aligned,
Yeah,
right? So we have to make sure that the family feels just as included as a player. And we need to make them feel that they have just as much power as just the player does. We're literally the supporting cast and they are the drivers.
I love that. And I know through several of our conversations, when we first started talking, let me kind of introduce how this whole thing came about. Um, we were on the phone, I think, for a couple hours that night. We reconnected, and I just kept asking questions. I want to know more about what you're doing, why you're doing it, how you're doing it. And I could see in every single answer you gave me, it was exactly that. It was about the athlete and it was about their family. And I remember you telling me you had a couple of programs that you'd implemented from a finance perspective to provide some tools, but that you really wanted to round out financial education. Like you said previously, to build a foundation for these kids that they know the right things to do with their money when it starts coming. Because at every level, and I know our first phone call, Shannon blew me away with a lot of the statistics and
Oh,
the
yeah.
fact that even is it the UIL now
Yes.
has changed some things to where athletes can actually receive sponsorships and money when they're in high school. So whenever it was 2, 3, 4 years ago, they changed it at a college level in a lot of ways, and now that's trickled down into the high school level. And so these kids literally, you know, I mean, he was giving us the stats of here's how many kids get college opportunities, here's how many go into the NFL. Well, there are a lot of great athletes that never make it to the pro level. Phenomenal athletes because there's only so many spots, right? So if they start getting money coming their way in high school and in college and they don't know what to do with it, how do they set up a foundation for life if they don't move on to that professional level? And so it was really important to you to give them those tools. And that's where I got to explain more about what I do in the financial realm. And I don't just help people with their money. I help people to understand how their money works and how they can be in control of where it is and what it's doing. And so as we went through that conversation, right now we're in the middle of building out a 5-course
That's
financial
so
education
excited.
program that will
Yes.
be within the curriculum
Yes.
at Dynamyc. And I am one, it's making a dream come true for me in for those Polynesian athletes that will come through the program. But you know, I have always loved kids. I only had one. I loved being there for my son's sport. And well, you saw my son last week. He popped in when we were on
Yes.
the Zoom, and she's like, "Holy cow, you weren't kidding. He's big. He's built like a Polynesian. He just doesn't look like one. He's got blue eyes, and well, his hair's brown now, but it was just white as could be when he was little. But he's always been built like a tank. But and he played sports. It's funny. Recently, we had a conversation maybe in the last year. And he was saying, there are some things I could have done to plug in harder in high school, especially. He wrestled and played football that might have earned him a scholarship. But at the same time, he told me when he was 9 years old, if he didn't get a scholarship to play sports, he was going to go in the military. And so I didn't have to tell him you're going to school or going in the military. He told
Yes.
me. And
Wow.
and so he did. He went in the Marine Corps. He served for 4 years, and he's home now. But I loved being a part of. I was the mom that at his wrestling tournaments, and I'm hoping that his wrestling coach hears this because we're good friends. He's gonna laugh because this is so true. I would sit right by the mat during the wrestling. When he'd be on the mat wrestling, I'd go down and sit by the mat and I'd be banging on the floor, screaming for him and stuff. Here's the funny thing. So I was the team mom in high school, and the year Brax graduated, I stayed on for the next year to help the team. And I loved the wrestling. I loved the football. So I stayed on. And when we had our parent meeting the year after my son graduated, his coach said, and he looks across the room at me first, and then he says, no parents will be allowed to sit down by the mats while their wrestlers are actively in a match. And it was all I could do not to bust out laughing because that was 100% me.
Towards you.
I was that mom. And I look back now and I'm like, what the heck? But anyway, and so the fact that not only a dream of mine of being able to take the work I do in providing financial education and, work with these Polynesian athletes that come into your program, but work with every single one of them
Yeah.
because every kid that gets to that level has worked their tail off and
Yeah.
their family has sacrificed.
Yeah.
And so to be a part of a program that cares so much about building that foundation, first and foremost, is an absolute honor for me. So I'm so grateful that we got reconnected, and that we're taking this journey in developing this program. But one of the things you talked about was making sure that they understand what to do with their money and how to set themselves up. And that's really where this came from. So do you want to talk a little bit about, we're still in the process of creating it, but some of the things we're establishing to give them tools that will help them for the rest of their lives beyond the field or the court?
Absolutely. So, um, just thinking about what's going to happen to them, right? Just thinking about when they get to the college level, and if they go from there. They don't have the knowledge that they need to navigate through any of that. Whether it's money coming in, where do you put your money? How can you save? Um, just those little things that I felt that was very important for me to instill in the players that we have. Anybody that's going to be represented by Dynamyc, you're going to go through these classes. You're going to go through these steps because these steps are there to prepare you for what's going to come in your journey, right? So
Hmm.
we want to make sure that you have these tools that you can just pull from these classes that you were so fortunate to have, and it'll get you to the next level. And it's not only helping the kid out, it's helping the parents out as well. Because some of the parents, they don't understand what it is. They don't understand how many times that we see a football player, they get into money and then the money goes as soon as it comes.
Yeah.
It's because they don't understand how to handle money. They don't understand. It's just it's like give me a kid give me a kid $10 and take him to the store. And he's not gonna budget, he's gonna blow it all, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like, what? Budget? What's that? But if you empower them with the knowledge now and get them into the habit of thinking about that, to where once they get to college and then instill it there still, and they're still thinking about that, it's gonna be already in their head programmed. It's all a habit.
Yeah.
It's just trying to form these habits to navigate and elevate their game to wherever that takes them. And it was very important to me when we were building Dynamyc is set them up for success and financial. Give them mentors, give them the nutritionist, get everything that they need to perfect their craft. So by the time that they get to college or even go off to NFL, if that is in their cards, that they have all of that. Or if they don't get to say they want to stop football, they
Hmm.
have everything that we've taught them and everything that was provided to them, and they'll take that knowledge and that can help them do whatever they need to do.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that's really what we're building. We're breaking down budgeting, and we're breaking down savings, debt management, making sure you have proper protection. And that's one of the things that, especially in football, a lot of these football players play a position where they get flat out huge. They are very tall. They're over 300 pounds. Well, when it comes to life insurance, there is one grid, one height weight grid from an underwriting perspective. And that doesn't adjust because you're in the best shape of your life as a professional football player or a college football player that weighs 360 pounds.
Yeah,
You are not going to qualify for life insurance. So to be able to make sure that these athletes coming out of college in or coming out of high school into college, before they hit those levels, we can put some things, and it may be a small foundational policy to start with, but it's something um, to where, God forbid, they face an injury and become disabled because of the sport they play, or even just in living their everyday life, they still have some protection in place. And then also teaching them about the tools they can use to start saving some of that money in high school and college. And if they don't go on to the next level beyond college, they've already set themselves up with a foundation that can still give them a leg up while they're starting whatever is next in their career journey. So it's exciting to be a part of that. And really, at those ages, 18 to 22 years old, putting just a little bit away can make a phenomenal difference. And we looked at the reality of some of the numbers last week, but it doesn't take millions and millions to create that. It's when you get those initial opportunities that bring in some chunks of money, you peel
yeah,
off a portion of that and start to put it somewhere. And that can still create everything you could ever want financially for your future because you started so young. And
yeah,
so I'm so excited for this program. And then on top of that, it's an open invitation. Every athlete will go through it, but it's also open for their families to participate in that
yeah,
with them so that their families get the education. And they may have some needs, but if nothing else, they are understanding that piece to be better set up um, to help support their kids when those opportunities come along financially to make sure that they're covering all their bases.
absolutely. It's I'm so excited to what we're creating. I just feel that this is this is so huge, right?
Yeah.
I feel the clients, our clients that are going to partake in this program is very lucky because this is going to teach them at an early age and financial freedom, the knowledge that let me back up. The knowledge that this class is going to give them and empower them to just dream big and have financial freedom is crazy. Um, a lot of people don't like to talk about finances, and I honestly think it's because they don't know,
Mhm.
like, what they can ask. They don't know what it entails, but if we empower them with the knowledge of what to do with your money, where to put your money, how to save your money. Okay, let's file your taxes. What does that look like? How to put away. If we get them into the habit of doing, then they're going to
Mhm.
be more comfortable and empowered and confident to talk about finances. It's
Yeah.
because people don't understand that they are in the driver's seat of their life, so
Yeah.
we need to equip ourselves with everything that we need, whether it's the hard conversations of finances, whether it's health, whatever that journey is. But make sure that we are equipped with all of the knowledge to kind of take us to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's different components when it comes to taxes. One of the things we're going to talk about is frameworking a way we can help these kids even start to establish their credit profile and how to manage that and how to not get caught up in that whole mess. Like you said earlier, these kids, we've all heard of it. They make all this money and it's gone because they didn't know what to do with it. And when they start with just a little bit in the beginning and they continue to follow that pattern over time, it creates what they need long term, but it also still enables them to reach back into their communities and give back financially if that's what to reach back into their families and provide, a home. A lot of them, pay off their parents' home or provide a home because they had a single parent who could never afford to do that. It doesn't take away their ability to do that. It just shows them what else they can build on the side of that. And it's with a very small portion of that overall income that they have throughout their sports career, but it gives them a foundation and a protection long term, regardless what comes next.
Uh,
Whether it's the professional level or, you know, they start a business of their own, or they're passionate about doing something within a company and they become an employee. So whatever that looks like, they just have that really strong foundation
yeah,
that they built from the beginning. Um, I'm incredibly excited. We're putting the finishing things on this, and it's starting to come together. So I'm excited to launch this. Our goal is to launch it, the towards the end of July. So I'm really excited to
yeah,
get that out there, and I'm also excited to get feedback from the kids and just open up with these athletes the dialogue and to in their worlds create a comfort in talking about money, in how it's a tool, not about who has how much and it's a big comparison game. Like we have
about
enough of that, right? We want to talk about money in the sense of where are you putting it and why, and what is it creating for you long term.
mm,
And
like
so,
maximize. I want them to understand that they can maximize anything that they have multiple streams of income. I want them by the time I want them to be so confident in themselves to where they don't the collectives, they're not banking on the collectives because what the foundation, what we've built,
mhm,
the collectives is just a bonus.
yep,
But you're gonna have credit, you're gonna have this, you're gonna understand what money is, you're gonna put away like those are the tools that you need after football. Those are the tools that you need for life. Those are the tools that you need to break generational curses. Just and this is where I'm just so excited of what we're creating together is because and I feel in my opinion this is groundbreaking for at this level of high school. I don't know if I've heard of a program that is pouring this much into kids.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah,
We're pouring so much into kids' development because development is where it starts. Everything else is just a secondary. but developing the kids is going to help check all those boxes to wherever they go.
Yeah.
And that's what people don't understand. That's what the coaches, they this is helping elevate them to the next level. They're going to be their best selves mentally with all the programs that we provide. This is just one aspect, financial literacy, but all the programs we provide within Dynamyc, it's
Mm-hmm.
going to elevate and prepare them for their best selves. So when they do, and that in turn helps the coaches because they have a great athlete, well-rounded athlete.
Yeah.
And that's our goal. And financial literacy was one of the biggest pieces of this, especially in the Polynesian community, is because I feel that we don't know what we can do.
Yeah.
We don't have the knowledge. I remember when we talked about it when we first had our phone call, and it opened my eyes after my husband passed away. All of the things that I could have done, but I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know I had. I didn't know that there were resources for these things. I didn't know that I could do this with money. I didn't know. Okay, I had no knowledge of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm a 42-year-old woman who just lost their husband, and I wish that I had that knowledge. But I now know it. So if I don't do it and if I don't pass that knowledge on, then that's a shame on me because now I know it.
Yes. Exactly. I love that you shared that too. You know, for listeners, um, episode 2, I believe it was with Maribel Alvarez, we really talked about the importance of women understanding their finances. Not that they need to be in charge of it, right? Because when you're married, there usually is one person who maybe does a little more of the transactional part of the financial picture, or even does all of it. But it is so important for that other spouse, husband or wife, to be plugged in and know what's going on, where information is at, because when something unexpected happens and all of a sudden you're carrying 100% of every responsibility, to not have a complete comfort when it comes to your finances
Yep.
and have that stress on top of everything else. um that's a difficult thing to carry for sure. And so that's why I love what I do and just getting that education out there. But that was episode 2. If there's anybody that wants to go back and listen to more about that, but it is so important to have that foundation and to know what's available. And that's the thing that drew me to setting up my business and personal finance, is because I saw the education piece. I had a 20-year corporate career in accounting and finance, and I didn't know this information. So if I didn't know it for myself, how is the average everyday person out there? And I say that all the time, and I will continue to say it. 20 years in corporate America, dealing with numbers, dealing with accounting, dealing with helping companies make more money. And I didn't know how to help myself make more money.
Yeah.
And that is not okay. And that's why I started this podcast. That's why it's so important that I am starting to bring in stories like yours of people who are creating that in different ways. You're not in the finance industry, but you see the value of it within what you do. And so sharing more stories like yours gives me the ability, hopefully, I pray that it gives me the ability to open the door for more people to have the conversation. And, as always, I say in my episodes, I'm looking to start the conversations, whether you have them with me or it just gives you more comfort in going to somebody that's a financial professional to get help. That's my overall goal. If you need my help, reach out. In the podcast, you can click to communicate and send me a message. It does not cost anything for clients to work with me. So if you need help, let's have a conversation. And if I can't answer whatever it is you're dealing with, I guarantee you I can find out who can. And so, but that you're creating that through what you guys have at Dynamyc. And sis, I'm so proud of you. As my cousin, as a Polynesian woman, um, there's still a sense of women trying to figure out, what doors am I allowed to walk through? What tables am I allowed to sit at? And man, I'll tell you what, the ladies in my business were like, if there's not a seat at the table, make one. If there's not a table, build one. I told one of my business partners yesterday, you belong in every single room. And if that door is not open for you, you open it for yourself. And you in our culture are setting that example for women. And I'm so proud of that. And I'm also so proud of what you're creating for these kids and giving them an opportunity to truly step into the next level with every tool they need, which happens to include finance. But there's so many other tools they need, and you're doing it right. And you're doing it with integrity. So I'm blessed to have you here. As we wind this down, Mary, two things. One, anything else you want to share that we haven't gone over? And then also, how can people get in touch with Dynamyc if they are in a position where they want to understand more about your program for their own athletes?
Yes. So we have our social media handles. We are Dynamyc Sports Management on IG, Twitter, and we have a launch page as well. They are all linked to an intake form that just lets get to know you better. And then from there, we'll go take a process to our case manager, and then we can filter it out and then have a meeting.
Okay. And your Dynamyc is with two Y's though, right?
So Dynamyc is spelled Dynamyc.
Okay. I wanted
Yeah.
to point that out to make sure people could find you.
Thanks. Yes, yes.
So yeah, definitely go look. I mean, there's a great launch video on the Dynamyc site. It's fun looking at that, and I'm excited to continue to watch you and the business grow. Any last tidbits that you want to share?
No, just thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you for this podcast. I just want to extend my reach. I want to extend my reach of what Dynamyc is doing. I want it to touch a lot. I want it to get out there to a lot of people if it resonates with them, even if it's even if it's just to even if we don't even represent the kid, but even if it's just to see what's going on and see how we can help. This is not just for athletes. I know it's a sports management, and we do manage these athletes that are on their way to the collegiate level, but we also do consultation as well, and we don't want to. Um, we understand that there's other it's not just college kids that are going there, right? We
Yeah.
want to reach out to everybody, right? So we want to make sure that we're there for consultation, we're there to talk to, we're there to just pick our brains. Anything that's going to help you out in your journey with your kid, hit us up. Let us know.
Yeah. Awesome. Awesome. Um, well, again, I love what you just said, that it's not about whether or not we represent your child in the long run, but if we can give you some tools and some information that help you along the journey, ultimately that allows you to extend your reach. And that's what I always hope. I tell people, even if I just sit with somebody and give them some information on how they can get out of debt or how they can start to save
Yeah,
money or how to build a budget and they never become a client, I've still equipped them to change their lives. And that means I won. It's not about the paycheck, it's about the impact. Right?
it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before I do my little sign off here, baby cousin Mary, I love you. I appreciate you. Ofalahiatu is how we say it.
Ofalahiatu.
Deal. So thank you for joining me today on the Nickels and Dimes podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Kim, and I look forward to continuing to bring you amazing content each week that will educate you, support you, and help you to find financial freedom. I look forward to having you listen each week, and I'm excited about some of the upcoming episodes. So until then, take care and stay safe.